Hey Ian, thanks for getting back to me about that technical blip there. Hard to imagine anything more useless than a talking video with no audio, with no talking on it. A music track with no music, no audio. I unplugged something and plugged in my computer, and my camera was still working, so I thought, okay, we're good. But what was unplugged was also the microphone, which has a preamp, so I didn't realize that my microphone had died. Okay, we're back on. We're talking about bebop scales, and I thought it was awesome. You're doing those really well. You're singing them really beautifully. Add the slide. Use your slide. So you did, I don't know what key you did, maybe say C. C, C, B, B, A, G, da, 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 da. Just bring the slide into it. This is going to, bring way more benefit without really adding a whole lot of effort. Now you're doing 10 minutes of practice. If you weren't singing them, it's going to take you an hour to get done what you can get done in like 15 minutes. And if you add the slide to it, it's worth like 2 hours of practicing. Like it's just really going to go in, and you're going to have it right there, and there's not going to be any real translation going on. Once you've sung it with the slide, you can play it. Whereas if you just sing it, now you pick up the trombone. Now I know the sound, and I even know the notes, but where is it on the slide? So you've got this extra layer of stuff you have to bring in when you start playing. So add the slide. Improvise rhythms and other kinds of ideas. Double tongue it. Think of the bebop scales over something like a dominant seventh or a 2/5. Ideally in a tune, right? A lot of this work that's disassociated from tunes, it becomes quite academic, and very typically it never shows up in your music making, so it becomes just kind of meaningless. Etudes. What do I have to say about etudes? Okay, so I don't want you to think that I've got a problem with other classes or a problem with other teachers or something like that. But the difference is that I'm your main teacher, so everything I'm doing is tailor-made exactly for you this week. Like what do you need to do right now? And certainly what do you need to do this term? And if I was teaching a class, like you're doing a class with me in the ensemble, right? And what I'm doing in that class is not tailored for you. It can't be, right? I've got a class to deal with, and that's good, right? So you have to, not get stuff that's tailor-made for you and kind of deal with it. But you have to understand, in terms of moving yourself forward, your priority is to do the stuff that's tailor-made for you. That's the stuff that's going to move you forward. And that's what's going to make it possible for you to show up and wing it in the classes, ideally. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that. Do your prep. But do all the etudes and scale patterns and Jerry Bergonzi shapes that you're getting from your masterclass. Do that after you've done your primary work on your tunes. And that can hopefully get you to the place where you can start to translate into the stuff into things that are actually relevant for you. So if you can take that Jerry Bergonzi lick that you were playing and put that into one of the tunes that you're working on, and I don't mean Satin Doll, I mean one of the tunes for your next jury. Well, now there's some value. And Craig will be on that jury. If he hears you play that Bergonzi shape in Fly Me to the Moon, he's going to go top marks, But is that going to happen by just preparing those licks for that master class? No. You're going to have to make that translation. And, you have to ask yourself, what do you have time for, and what is your priority? And so that's really important to really figure out what is your priority. And what I'm doing should be your priority because it's tailor-made for you. And if my priorities are not lining up with your priorities, then your job is to tell me what's not working. And then I will say, okay, I'll change. Or if I don't feel that I can support those priorities, then we get you a new teacher. Like you get you somebody that's going to work. No hard feelings. Like we need to make sure that this is really precious time. You have a very limited amount of time. You see how quickly time goes by when you're in a university program, right? It's already the second term, and then it's going to be the summer, and you're done. That was year one, and you're done. How much did you learn? Can you go and play a gig right now? Yeah. I think by the spring, you could go play a gig if you get your priorities straight. On the other hand, you could work your butt off and go to the end of the term in the spring, and somebody could say, hey, you've been studying music, can you play anything? And you're like, well, actually, no, not without my music in front of me or something. Or I can play a whole bunch of scale patterns perfectly. So you actually want to be able to play music. That's the point. scale exercise, definitely play them from memory. I think I already explained about the dominant pattern that's in that particular scale pattern. Yeah, get to the recording. If you're going to play a tune, if you're going to play Satin Doll, number one thing, find the original recording. And if you're not sure, if somebody throws a tune at you in one of the classes or ensembles and you don't know it, and you need some help, just let me know, and I can help you find the definitive recording that you should be working from. And with Satin Doll, obviously, it's going to be a Duke Ellington recording. There's probably more than one, but they're probably all awesome. And just get the vibe of the tune and get yourself off that page as soon as possible. You want to get yourself to the point where you don't need the lead sheet in order to learn the tune. You can just learn from the recording. In the meantime, use the lead sheet to help you, but just get off the lead sheet as quickly as possible and start to play it the way you're hearing it rather than the way you're reading it. Okay, so yeah, so you did... Right, so that's one of the Bergonzi shapes. I've got all those. I've got the book. I've got the ones that Craig taught me, which are probably the same ones he's teaching you guys if you want a heads up on that. Make sure that you recognize that those are 2/5s. I recommend working with the 3 2/5s that I've given you, and if you've lost those, let me know. I can get those back to you again. Because they're not so specific. They're generalized. These are the chord tones, and these are like sort of the archetypal shapes that composers and improvisers have used for hundreds of years, not just jazz, but all of music. So they're really strong and really useful. So that, to me, is more tailor-made for you than a generalized Bergonzi shape. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to do Bergonzi shapes, stick them into your own tunes right away. You said you were making shapes around guide tones. Absolutely, 3s and 7s. That also includes other kinds of color tones. So, like if there's a 9 in the chord, or a sharp 11, or a flat, whatever, that can also function as a guide tone. Just so you know. So those are really good. If you have a kind of a shape that you can create, I think we talked about this in one of our lessons when I had a blackboard. You can create some kind of a shape that you want to follow. And these are the target notes I want to get to, and those are typically going to be guide tones, so that they don't always have to be. You had a question about E flat minor 7, D flat 7, so that's a 2/5 in G flat major. There may not be a G flat major. Just this speaks to what I've said before about there aren't common keys and uncommon keys. I mean, there are. You're not going to find a lot of Duke Ellington tunes, maybe in F sharp major, but you will see F sharp major in Ellington tunes. You'll see those chords, you'll see 2/5s in those keys, just as you'll see them in G flat major, right? And so you just need to know what those chords are. Ideally, you've got some kind of archetypal 2/5 shapes you can put less familiar to you changes into. So, for example, A flat minor, D flat 7, that's a 2/5 in G flat major. So those notes would be, excuse me. And if you're going to go on to the tonic, which probably isn't in the tune, but right, D flat major 7. So then you can't really just arpeggiate up and down, but that's a really good start to make sure you know what the notes are. And so, like, one of my 3 main archetypal 2/5s is to go. Right, so that's going to work, very likely work beautifully in the Ellington tune, right? So that's what I recommend. There's other ways of going about that, but that's what I recommend. Be super clear about the notes and the chords, okay? Blue bossa. Please not blue bossa. I don't want you to embarrass yourself. People are going to laugh at that, just like if you said Mozart instead of Mozart. It's a bossa, as in a bossa nova, right? It's a kind of like a Brazilian dance form or something, which I know nothing about, but I do know it's not called bossa. Use the recording. I think you said you were. That's awesome. Definitely the higher G. You were asking about that. Don't play the lower octave. Play the D flat in second. I think you kind of missed the D flat. So let's talk about the chord changes. Okay, so there's first 4 bars. It's like sets of, like, I think there's 4 lines, 4 bars each, right? First 4 bars, 2 bars of C minor, 2 bars of F minor. You need to know exactly where that happens. Bum, ba, 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 bum, ba, E flat. That's where the F minor chord is, right? Right? That's the first 4 bars. And then, so bum, ba, da, ba, ba, da, right there, ba, on that note, the F. So So that's a D minor flat 5, or a D half diminished. And that, so we're now into the second 4 bars. Those 4 bars are a 2-5 in 2-5-1 in C minor. So 1 bar of D minor flat 5. So that means it's just a D minor. It's exactly the same D minor as you did in the 2-5 in C major and take the A train. But because we're in C minor, there's an A flat in it, right? And that A flat will carry on and be the flat 9 of the G7 chord when we get there, right? So that's what we call a minor 2-5. So that's that note. Ba, 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 B flat, and that's the note you hit when you hit the G7 chord. Now, a G7 chord has a B natural in it. So that B flat is a real crunchy note. It's what we actually would call a sharp 9. So, spelled correctly for the chord, it would be an A sharp. And so there would be an F and a B, the guide tones. And if I play that B flat up high, you'll hear the sound of that chord. It's really great, it's really beautiful. So that's right there. That F, that's the first bar, the first note of the chord, of the C minor chord. Resolving on the E flat, and that's for 2 bars. Okay, so we've got the first 8 bars, first 4 bars, 2 bars of C minor, 2 bars of F minor. Second 4 bars, 2-5-1 in C minor. This is really typical. 1 bar of the 2, 1 bar of the 5, 2 bars of the 1. Totally normal. Next 4 bars, 2-5-1 in D flat major. So that's where that D flat comes in. If you're in D flat major, you know how to play D flat major. Oh, what a weird key. No, it isn't. D flats and G flats get added. You have to add a couple of flats to this key signature, right? I feel like I'm missing one or something, but no, I think that's right. And so when you're playing, that starts on E flat in the melody. Ba, 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 ba. So D flat and G flat when you get there, right? Bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, right? So that's 2-5-1. So that's, there's that minor, E flat minor, A flat dominant, and then now I'll play it up higher. Whatever those notes are, that's the D flat major chord for 2 bars. So 1 bar of E flat minor, just minor, not a flat 5 or anything because we're in a major key now. 1 bar of A flat dominant chord and 2 bars of D flat major 7. And then the last 4 bars are the 2-5-1 in C minor again, which is this. So on a D, and then on a G, 5, and then on a 1. And then the last bar, we're going to have 2 beats each, 2-5-1 or 2-5 in C minor, and the 1 being the beginning of the form when you go around. That's called a turnaround. So we have a D half diminished, and from 2 beats, the last bar, and a G7 flat 9, sharp 9 of the last 2 beats of the form, and that takes you back to the beginning. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about Blue Bossa. And that should really help to know what the right notes are in the melody, because you're not going to play a D natural if you're in the middle of a D flat 2-5, right? There's not going to be any D naturals in there. Okay, Fly Me to the Moon. Please, 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 please use the Sinatra recording. That's it. That's the secret to Fly Me to the Moon. It's the grooviest, most happening thing ever. Get into the recording, sing with it, play roots, play the melody, sing the melody, all the things that we said before, improvise over top of it, but get into the vibe of that. And you start playing Fly Me to the Moon with that recording strongly going in your head, you're going to sound awesome. And you'll skip about 5 years of development, and you can do that in about 5 days. Get off the page, please get off the page. This is the first time I put in my notes before I've updated my notes and put some things at the front to say at the top. You're way too willing to abandon the tempo, beat, groove, because you're not connected to the recording. So, it's just a bunch of notes for you. Get connected to the recording, learn the words, really get into it. You got a good start in the head, get it memorized, learn the words, know exactly where those root chord changes are, as I described with Blue Bossa. You need to do that work in Fly Me to the Moon. If you need help, let me know. You might notice you said to play Autumn Leaves. It's very similar to Autumn Leaves, exactly the same kind of around the cycle in a key chord changes. We can talk about that. Cantaloupe Island, you mentioned briefly. You said something about it. there not being a melody or something. Well, it's a simple melody, but it's a really strong melody, and that's why it's so great. And that's the trumpet line. So learn the trumpet line, sing along with the trumpet line. For the first two times for the form, he plays that melody. That's your melody. It's really very, very cool. A really fun chorus to solo over. Improvise over the recording, do all the kinds of things that I was saying before. You like that piano line? That's really cool. So use it. You can play bits and pieces or things inspired by by that piano line as part of your solo. Absolutely, you can build a solo on that. And then finally, please don't change your jury choices. Frankly, you should be a lot further along with these tunes because we decided before Christmas. These are your tunes. Get started, get to know the recording, memorize these tunes, all the things I just said. We said all that before Christmas, but whatever, right? So you're learning, not just learning how to play music, you're learning how to organize your time. And maybe you're getting a little bit of a sense of how valuable that kind of time is. Like the next time you get a break, like hopefully the summer break, you're going to get some serious work done. You could get a whole term's worth of work done and come into the fall just killing it, coming in really strong. But anyways, you're talking about St. Thomas. If you're really like, okay, I just, St. Thomas is the most meaningful tune in my life, I have to play this tune, absolutely. And that you would substitute that for Blue Bossa. It is a Latin tune. You were sure it wasn't. It's not a swing tune for sure, and it's not a modern tune. It's definitely, I think it's like a calypso tune or something, but it's a straight eighth tune. And Sonny Rollins is a huge name in jazz, by the way. So, yeah, okay, so I think that's all we need to say. Sorry, it's a very long video, but then you gave me a long video, so I guess that's the appropriate response. All right, my friend, good work. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can help and fill in. Have a great week. I'll see you tomorrow in the ensemble class, and I'm delighted you're doing that. Talk to you soon.